I'm about to show you a fighter jet launch that may have just shifted the balance of power in the Pacific. And no, it wasn't American. China just launched its J-35 stealth fighter from a brand new aircraft carrier using an electromagnetic catapult, something the US pioneered, but hasn't fully operationally demonstrated with the F-35C on its newest carrier. And that changes everything. On September 22, 2025, something happened at sea that forced military analysts to sit up straight. A stealth fighter roared down the deck of an aircraft carrier, hooked into an electromagnetic catapult, and launched into the sky. But here's the twist. It wasn't America's F-35, it was China's J-35. And that single launch may have changed the balance of naval air power forever. What makes this moment even more intense is not just the launch itself, but what it represents. Speed, scale, strategy, and a message aimed directly at Washington. So the real question is simple. Did China just do what America's F-35 still hasn't? Now let's break this down piece by piece. Why did this launch shock the world? When it comes to stealth carrier aviation, electromagnetic catapult launches are the gold standard. America built the USS Gerald R Ford with that system. But here is where things get interesting. China's brand new Fujian carrier used its EMALS system to launch a fifth-generation stealth jet, before the F-35C has operationally demonstrated the same from the Ford. Watch this moment closely. Here is the short clip where analysts are talking about the J-35's role and carrier focus.
When it comes to the J-35, they're able to carry over 15,000 pounds of armament. They're definitely focused on a multi-role mission and being a carrier-based aircraft. Now, when you put this thing on a carrier, the amount of armament that it's going to be able to carry is going to go with.
In that clip, he clearly says they are focused on multi-role missions and carrier-based operations. That is not random. That is strategic planning. This was not a test in isolation. It was part of Fujian's sea trials. A real jet, real catapult, real recovery. And that means China has crossed a technological milestone that used to belong exclusively to the United States. But what makes this even more significant is the type of carrier involved. Fujian is China's first fully catapult-equipped supercarrier, designed from the ground up to rival modern Western decks. Electromagnetic catapults are far more complex than traditional steam systems. They require precise power management, advanced engineering, and massive electrical output. Successfully launching a stealth jet from that system proves not only aircraft maturity, but carrier maturity as well. This is about systems integration. Aircraft, carrier, catapult, arresting gear, deck crew coordination. Everything working together. And that level of integration is what turns hardware into real power projection capability. How did a rejected jet become China's ace? What makes this story even more dramatic is where the J-35 started. Back in 2012, Shenyang introduced the FC-31. It looked promising, but no one wanted it. The Chinese military was not impressed. Foreign buyers passed. It almost faded away. Then China announced something bigger. A new carrier, not ski jump style like Liaoning or Shandong, a true catapult carrier. That changed everything. Suddenly the FC-31 design made sense. Reinforced landing gear, folding wings, catapult bar, carrier durability. It evolved into the J-35. Here is the longer report showing the prototype evolution and carrier integration talk.
Outfitted with Shenyang J-35s. In October 2021, the first prototype J-35, 35001, took off for its first flight. Flying in July 2022, the second prototype J-35, 35003, was painted tactically in gray to reduce visibility. On the other hand, September 2023 is reported to have seen the first flight of the J-35's third prototype.
Watch this carefully. You can hear them discussing prototypes and development phases. First flight in 2021. Second prototype in 2022, third in 2023. That is rapid iteration. In just 4 years, China moved from prototype to carrier operations. That pace is what is raising eyebrows globally. Is the J-35 built for carriers better than the F-35C? Now let's talk design philosophy. The F-35C uses one engine, the J-35 uses two. That matters at sea. Twin engines increase survivability during carrier operations. If one fails, the jet might still make it back. The two-engine configuration and dependability for carrier use. That is not an accident. China deliberately chose reliability over simplicity. The J-35 reportedly carries over 15,000 pounds of armament in certain configurations. Now yes, carrier launches reduce load depending on fuel and catapult limits, but the raw capacity is there. Maximum takeoff weight is close to 30 tons. Powered by WS-13E engines producing around 93 kilonewtons of thrust each. Estimated top speed around Mach 1.8. Internal bays allow PL-15 long-range missiles and PL-10 short-range missiles. That means stealth remains intact until weapons are released. This is not a lightweight experiment. It is a serious naval strike platform. How fast is China producing these jets? Here is where it becomes strategic pressure. Reports suggest more than 50 J-35s already produced. Annual output estimates range between 70 and 100 aircraft per year. Add J-20 production, which is reportedly 100 plus annually. That is over 170 fifth-generation fighters entering Chinese service every year. Meanwhile, US F-35 orders have fluctuated due to software and upgrade delays. Now watch this part from the news coverage about operational deployment.
Like Fujian, will be equipped with an air wing that consists of the J-35 and J-15 Catabar variants, in addition to additional aircraft and unmanned aerial vehicles. But the picture that surfaced at the start of the month claimed to depict a mock-up of the J-35 while it was docked aboard the aircraft carrier Liaoning. The item was then seen next to a J-15 model on board the Liaoning aircraft carrier in February, when more photos surfaced showing the ship sailing out to sea for additional post-maintenance trials.
They clearly talk about Fujian being equipped with J-35 variants and integrated air wings. That signals operational intent, not just testing. Serial numbers appearing on fuselages means squadron assignment. That is military language for active service. Quantity has a quality of its own, and China seems determined to produce at scale. And scale changes the psychology of deterrence. When one nation can replace losses faster, sustain longer patrol cycles, and rotate aircraft more frequently, it gains strategic flexibility. High production also allows for continuous upgrades without halting deployment. New radar? Install it in the next batch. Engine improvement? Roll it into future blocks. That manufacturing rhythm builds momentum. The United States perfected this model during World War II and the Cold War. Now China is applying similar industrial logic to fifth-generation aviation. This is not just about today's fleet numbers. It is about sustained growth over the next decade. Is this stealth really comparable? Chinese state media claims the radar cross-section is smaller than a human palm. Some sources compare it to a sparrow. Now exact numbers are classified everywhere, but shaping tells a story. Blended fuselage, diverterless inlets, angled surfaces, internal weapons, seamless canopy integration. Visually, yes, it shares stealth logic similar to F-35. But physics limits design options for low observable aircraft. Similar missions create similar shapes. The real difference lies in integration, sensor fusion, data links, battle network coordination. China describes the J-35 as a quarterback aircraft. It collects data, processes threats, shares targeting information across ships, missiles, and other aircraft. That is not just a fighter. That is a node in a kill chain. And when you combine stealth, catapult launch capability, and mass production, you start to understand why this moment mattered so much. This is not about hype, it is about timing. 4 years from prototype to carrier integration, dual-engine carrier stealth jet, operational sea trials, mass production lines. The Pacific skies are not what they were 5 years ago. What happens when J-35 faces the F-35 head-on? Now, we step into the comparison everyone is waiting for. On paper, the F-35 is combat-proven. It has flown missions over Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It has been integrated with NATO networks. It has real battlefield data behind it. The J-35 does not have combat experience. China has not fought an air war since 1979. But here's the part that makes this comparison serious. The J-35 is built with two engines. The F-35C uses one F-135 engine, producing around 191 kilonewtons of thrust. The J-35 uses twin WS-13E engines, producing roughly 93 kilonewtons each. That gives redundancy, especially critical during carrier operations. The F-35C has a combat radius of roughly 1,200 kilometers. The J-35 is estimated in a similar range, though exact numbers remain classified. Both use internal weapons bays for stealth missions. The F-35 is heavily focused on sensor fusion. It sees first, shares first, shoots first. China openly says the J-35 is designed to do the same thing. A data hub, a battlefield coordinator. The biggest difference right now is ecosystem maturity. The US operates hundreds of F-35s with allies like Japan, South Korea, and Australia. That network is massive. China is building its network rapidly, but it is still expanding. The real takeaway is this. In a one-on-one dogfight, pilot training and tactics matter more than branding. In a large-scale conflict, production speed and numbers matter just as much as technology. And that is why this comparison is no longer theoretical. It is strategic reality. How much does the J-35 cost? Let's talk money. Because wars are not just fought in the air. They are fought in factories. The F-35C costs roughly $100 million per unit depending on lot and configuration. Sustainment costs are also high. China has not officially published the J-35 price tag, but analysts estimate it could fall significantly below the F-35 due to lower labor costs and centralized state production. If China can produce J-35s at scale for a lower per unit cost, that changes procurement dynamics completely. Remember something important. China does not need to export the J-35 to justify production. It can build for domestic use first. But export potential exists. Countries that cannot access the F-35 may look toward Beijing. Affordable stealth changes global military markets, and once production lines are optimized, cost per unit drops even more. The strategy is simple. Build enough. Build fast. Sustain long-term. Does combat experience still give America the edge? This is where balance returns to the conversation. American pilots have flown real missions in contested airspace. They understand coalition warfare. They operate within complex electronic environments. Chinese pilots train extensively. But training is not combat. Experience shapes reaction speed, decision-making, stress management. The US also operates the F-22 Raptor, still considered one of the most dominant air superiority fighters ever built. And then there is the next phase. The US Next Generation Air Dominance Program. Sixth-generation concepts. Collaborative combat drones. AI-assisted targeting. So while China is rapidly closing the fifth-generation gap, the US is already investing heavily in the sixth. That means this race is layered, not linear. The skies are competitive, but they are not surrendered. What does this mean for Taiwan and the South China Sea? This is where strategy becomes geography. Carrier-based stealth fighters extend reach. They allow China to project power beyond its coastline. With Fujian equipped with J-35 variants, China gains flexible deployment options across the South China Sea and near Taiwan. Carrier operations mean mobile airfields. Harder to track, harder to neutralize. At the same time, US allies in the Indo-Pacific are increasing F-35 fleets. Japan alone plans over 140 units. South Korea continues expansion. Australia integrates deeply. So any regional crisis would not be one-sided. It would be layered with allied aircraft, naval groups, and missile systems. But the key difference compared to 10 years ago is simple. China now fields carrier-capable stealth fighters. That changes operational planning for everyone in the region, and planners in Washington, Tokyo, and Taipei are recalculating accordingly. Has the era of unchallenged US air superiority ended? For decades, American stealth dominance was unquestioned. F-22, F-35. Global basing, combat experience. Now China operates the J-20 and the J-35 simultaneously. Two stealth programs, carrier integration, mass production. Expanding naval aviation. That does not erase US superiority overnight, but it does end the monopoly. Future conflicts would be contested. Electronic warfare heavy, data-driven, fast. The advantage will go to whoever innovates faster and trains harder, and innovation is no longer limited to airframes alone. Artificial intelligence, electronic warfare suites, space-based surveillance, cyber capabilities, and drone integration will shape the next confrontation. Imagine J-35s operating alongside unmanned combat drones, extending sensor reach and missile capacity. Imagine coordinated satellite targeting feeding live battlefield updates directly into cockpit displays. The future fight will not be isolated dogfights at close range. It will be layered, digital, and extremely fast. The nation that merges technology with doctrine most effectively will control escalation. And right now, both sides are racing to master that formula. And that is the final message behind the J-35 launch. It was not just about a jet leaving a deck. It was a signal. Competition is real. Speed matters. Numbers matter. Innovation matters. And the Pacific is entering a new chapter of air power history. The sky is no longer one nation's domain. The race has accelerated, and the balance is shifting. Subscribe now, because the next breakthrough might change everything again.